The absolute dishonesty and fraudulence of most corporate mainstream media is now common knowledge. The rise of alternative and independent media over the last 2 decades has facilitated a mass awakening of people to the fact that we are systematically lied to and programmed into believing a false version of reality via the modalities of religion, education, and mainstream media, all of which are controlled by a power elite via their various global intelligence networks. An important aspect into an individual's awakening to the true nature of our reality is their first step away from the mainstream media narrative and where they land.
What is the true story of humanity's history? It's very different from what we've been taught in school.
With over a decade as an independent investigative journalist, documentarian and author, moving in the world of alternative and independent media, and as co-founder and creative director of Conscious Consumer Network, I have personally encountered many individuals, groups and media outlets that put out sensationalistic false information. Whether or not they are aware, these purveyors of falsities are secretly serving the powers that be by continuously pumping confusing disinformation into the online world. We simply cannot create a better world on the back of lies. It is the drive to seek the truth and create a better world that motivates me to call out the scammers, frauds and charlatans that lie to and defraud vulnerable people with deliberately misleading information.
Hello everybody, it's been a while since we've spoken. My name is Mel V, coming to you live on Conscious Consumer Network, and this is the 2020 Conscious Consumer Network relaunch. We did take a bit of a break, given that we were streaming non-stop for 5 years, doing live broadcasts almost every night, and it had become a bit, repetitive, and the thrill just wasn't in it anymore. So like all good things that you want to keep fresh and, potent, you've got to take a step back to just enjoy what it was like having it, because it seems that sometimes you can only appreciate things once they're gone. And with that being said, we've been really looking forward to bringing the network back, and we've finally been able to do it from our new location here in sunny Algarve, where I'm now broadcasting from. And we plan to obviously be back with the network for the upcoming weeks and months, and perhaps even who knows how long we have to go for. But we definitely have our broadcasters lined up again, and they're looking forward to getting back on air with us and disseminating information at this crucial time. Because let's face it, since we were speaking last, the world has changed dramatically. So much has happened. So there's been many shifts and pulls and twists and changes and challenges that we've had to endure, like everybody else who's gone through what is, I now refer to a plandemic, not a pandemic. And for anyone who's been following me on Facebook, you'll understand where I am in this game and narrative with regards to where I stand to and what I speak to in terms of the way global affairs are panning out and how it is in fact affecting all of us. And I suppose over the course of my next broadcasts going out live on Conscious Consumer Network, my aim will obviously be to address some of these things that perhaps need to be unpacked. There's lots kind of percolated beneath the surface, lots of people with different views and different ideas, and I really want to kind of dig in, do the research, and let's get this all out there and explore all this information and examine, and of course have contributions from the audience. Please do get in touch and share with us your views and perspectives, and whenever we are exploring a particular subject matter, we obviously invite as much evidence and disclosure material as possible. So anybody who wants to come forward and share information with us, of course, we are always open to looking to what you have to share and just from hearing from you. Since we announced the relaunch, a number of people who used to watch us regularly got in touch, very happy that we were coming back on air. It's been like almost 8 months now since we last did a live broadcast, and I tell you something, it's kind of strange being here, but I'm just wanted to start a little slowly this evening and share with you some of our journey up until this point, because it's been an interesting one. And I suppose just to get the feel of it. So you'll notice this is a very comfortable setting, because this is going to be a very conversational disclosure from my side. And of course, I'm sitting in the bedroom and my cats are behind me. So I'm inviting you into the home that I currently reside in, and I'm going to go back a little bit and talk about some of the things that have been going on behind the scenes with regards to our journey and where we are as a network. I think it was in February last year when we got contacted by lawyers from CNN, I beg your pardon, which is Cable News Network. And they were obviously concerned over the similarity between the logos that we were using. And so we went toe-to-toe with the lawyers, and we eventually came out at an agreement, which is why we have decided to rebrand our logo, which is what you will notice is new about our relaunches. We have, in fact, rebranded our logo. And we have left a number of the archives that we have online, still have some of the old branding on, but there's nothing we can do about that, because so many people have downloaded our archives and re-uploaded them in various other places that it would be impossible for us to be able to track everything down and have any form of realistic control over the branding and the content that other people have uploaded and downloaded. So we've taken control of what we can, and for many of our key broadcasters, we've had to completely rebrand their entire archive, which, as you can imagine, takes a lot of time going back and putting new layers on with new branding and everything. But, you know, our broadcasters are important to us, so we've put the time and effort into making sure that those who I think are ride or die people that we will always be working with, to make sure that their archives are indeed up to date and that they're not at any risk from any form of prosecution from Cable News Network or anybody else. Now, I just want to say, with regards to the way the logo was designed, it actually does have 7 points of differentiation, but the logo, when used in different contexts for different labels, actually came out looking very similar to the CNN logo. And eventually we did concede that there was a similarity, especially when the color was taken out and it was just a sort of a shadow version, which they picked up on one of the shows where the logo had been adjusted. And we were quite happy actually to look at alternatives, because there's nothing nicer than getting fresh art in. You know, being an artist myself, it's always great to get fresh artwork in and rebrand and relabel, and that's what we've done. And with that, we obviously will be rebuilding the consciousconsumernetwork.tv website. We've already got it partially built. It's nice and colorful, and it's going to have an archive of all the shows that are going out from here on going forward, listed in the links so that people can access them easily. And a lot of the old stuff, obviously, there was so much. There was over 3,000 broadcasts. It was almost impossible to have them properly archived on a website without taking huge amounts of space. So what we did was we just kept that all on YouTube. And the old archives, the ones that we obviously feel are fit for audience viewing, have had the privacy removed, because for a long time we just took the entire network offline. So we've reinstalled the privacy, I beg your pardon, the viewability of a lot of the archives. And it's funny, because as soon as we did that, our viewer numbers just shot through the roof again. We've had a lot of people obviously seeing the archives being released and going back and rewatching some of their old shows, watching some of their favorite broadcasts, or perhaps just discovering Conscious Consumer Network for the first time. Now, for those of you who might be new to us and haven't been on our journey, we launched on the 1st of January 2015, and we did run for almost 5 years straight without a single break. We had like a couple of days where we moved here and there, so there was maybe a week break or whatever, but pretty much straight on for 5 years with broadcasters almost every night. Towards the last couple of years, we did start taking Fridays and then eventually weekends off, because to continue broadcasting at that pace was simply knackering, and it's a lot of responsibility to run a team of broadcasters and network contributors. Now, bearing in mind that a lot of them had opposing views, contrasting ideologies, and sometimes can be quite dismissive of each other's titular narrative, which, you know, when you're trying to manage a team and get them to work in harmony together, it's always a challenge to balance the egos. And that's one of the greatest things about having run this network is getting to work with a vast plethora of people and getting to experience such a vast, diverse array of character types and challenges, because with every new broadcaster we took on, there was always an innate risk of, them doing something so completely stupid that it completely wrecks the network, which means like that, not just for them, but for every other broadcaster, and of course, all the broadcasters that have gone before, having the archives taken down or whatever. And yet we have managed to not have any of the archives permanently removed. We've managed to stay on air because we've tried always to maintain community standards. And when we've had shows that have gone out live that I felt afterwards perhaps could be damaging, I would obviously make sure we kept them in private. And we tried to maintain a responsible practice with the way we produced our information, stored our information, disseminated our information, of course, then the way in which we had to deal with certain situations, such as people who had come onto the network who had ended up being a complete disaster. Some of them nearly ending the network completely with some of the people and some of the subject matters that they got into, and some of the really dodgy criminal types that they brought onto the network and promoted them in a network that we run and coordinate. And I've paid for that. I've paid the price of that. I've been absolutely torn to shreds on forums, and so often this stuff that gets said on forums gets taken out of context by people who I'm perhaps having a squabble with in my day-to-day life, as I go around in my community affairs. And it gets thrown in my face, oh, this is what's being said about you online. But I'm like, if you actually understood the context, like we are working with very controversial information, and you're not going to be able to keep everybody happy all the time. And that's just the reality of it. And I must say that even just within my immediate community, one of the things that's been very interesting, because it's a more visceral experience when you're dealing with people actually around you, as opposed to just across an internet, airwaves and computer screens. There's still a bit of a distance that way. One of the things that has for me been quite challenging is dealing with people's perceptions within the local community, who get to understand who we are, what it is we do, and some of the material we've been involved with. And there's a lot of very ignorant people out there, and they often can become your greatest enemies because they see you as completely batty, a tinfoil hatter, disruptive to the community, and have been accused of so many different things. And so many different situations have arisen which have been blown out of proportion, twisted to people's advantages so that they could have something to use against me. And then, of course, they stumble onto the stuff they see online. And, oh, yes, look what we found about Mel online. Oh, let's go down to the local pub and have a little gossip. And there's been this kind of culture going on. But, the one thing that Biggie and I are very thick-skinned. We've done the cosmic gauntlet. We've been there, we've done that, we've been doing it for years. We know who we are, we know what we're all about, and we're very grateful once again to be reinstalled in our purpose of broadcasting our live conscious consumer TV network, which we are ever so proud of. And we've perhaps re-established a new respect and fervor for as we take it forward into 2020, a year that has been so incredibly challenging for just so many people, and the suffering that's going on at the moment, and the backhandedness, and let's see, the corruption. I don't even know which words to use anymore because there's just so much of it. The shitfuckery, as a good friend of mine would say. It's just completely gotten out of hand. But 2020 has also been a year of a much greater awakening for so many people who've been able to look at what's going on through eyes of common sense and reason and go, it doesn't make sense. What they're telling us is not what we're seeing. And you really do have to learn to sort of start tuning in and trusting your instincts when it comes to what you see in the mainstream media. And that was really the premise upon which we created Conscious Consumer Network, was because many years ago I realized that mainstream media cannot be trusted. We do need to create alternative information sources for people so that they can make their decisions based upon all the information, not just the state-controlled, government-sanctioned version of reality that we as the citizens are allowed to know. There's far more going on than what most people actually realize. And when you get down and deep in it, it's actually quite sickening, some of the dark side stuff, which I won't get into right now. Many people who will hear this know exactly what I'm talking about, but that stuff is out there and it is very, very real. And we've had the fortune or misfortune of moving in a world where we've come to contact with a number of instances, a number of testimonies, evidence being brought forward, and things that have really shown me that there is something very real to this dark agenda. It's not a small thing. In fact, I went on to write several books focusing in on what is really going on and how we can decipher our reality and decode what's going on with all the bullshit that keeps kicking down in front of us. So for anybody looking to obviously check up on what it is I've written, you can check out my books, which is melvbooks.info, or check out some of my documentaries, which is on a specially dedicated documentary website, privately hosted, which is melvdocumentaries.info. And that's some of the stuff that we've been doing whilst we've been offline, folks, is actually building our infrastructure behind the scenes. We've created a number of new websites, including one of our major sponsor websites, which is lunarsilver.info. And we'll get more into the lunar silver as I do more broadcasts, so we start talking about health and nutrition and focusing on the conscious consumer network orientated things. I'm going to be speaking to you all regularly with renewed fervor and much zest and much motivation for really driving forward content that is based in creating a positive perspective and bringing people out of the very negative downward spiral that we currently are faced with. But also a place for me, I suppose, as an experiencer of this reality, to come in, check in, chat to you all, share with you my experiences, my views, my honest opinions, and also the various stories. It's the innate nature of what I do. Somehow I always get pulled into these stories where there's corruption and deception going on, and I'm the unfortunate person who is left with the task of unraveling the cosmic pile of shit that gets foisted upon us on a regular basis, and that I shall do with as much grace as I can certainly muster. But I really just wanted to test out the network and wanted to check and see if it's all going well. So just give a holler out to the producer. Biggie, how's it all going? Fantastic. So Biggie has been producing the show since the very start. He is my loving husband. We celebrated in May our 19th wedding anniversary. We have in fact been married for 19 years. We got married in London in 2001. And we have been on quite a journey through our marriage, ups and downs, ins and outs, challenges, oh, some challenges. But through it all, we're still together as a team, running this network with a lot of love between us and our beautiful family who keep us happy and sane with all the love they give us in this crazy world. Because let's face it, there's a lot of very angry people out there. And these days when I walk down the street and I see people with face masks on, I just sometimes lose the will to live a little bit, because this is not the world that I want to live in. And I feel that we need to start connecting, sharing information, and really doing valuable research and sharing it, actively information sharing online, so that we can help people, perhaps, if nothing else, alleviate them from the fear-driven patterns of behavior that they've been sort of con-mockeried into. And perhaps I don't know, maybe inspire a little love, inspire a little joy, and even a little revolution of sorts. Perhaps, if not real, but then in the heart and the minds of people. And I suppose that's really one of the key defining factors of what we started the network with the intention of doing, is just creating that spark of inspiration through well-researched, logical information that comes from people who have a very good understanding of what's going on and who really have taken time to conscientize and familiarize themselves with the true nature of this reality. There's very interesting projects that we have had the great privilege of showcasing over the years. And for me, it will always be the greatest privilege of what we have done is to get involved with some of these projects and the amazing people that have pioneered them, to give them a platform to share their struggles and to give them a voice in which to explore the information that they had done great research into and spend much time putting together in chunks that people can digest and understand, because it can be a little bit overwhelming. As an information junkie, trust me, I know. This just because I get it, I realize not everybody else is getting it, but we are trying. We are trying very hard to reach out to people, to give them the information, and to do it from a place of humility. I never want to pretend I know everything, and I never want to come across like, a big ego, or I'm this or I'm that. But there is certainly a space in this world for people who can speak up and must speak up at this time. I think whilst we still have that space, and before our freedoms are completely stripped from us, because let's face it, they're going faster and faster with every turn of the clock, we need to now come together and unite on our common ground, which absolutely is the same spiritual imperative it has always been throughout our operating of Conscious Consumer Network. And that is simply the pursuit of a free, fair, just, peaceful, sustainable, non-toxic world. And for me, that is the most noble pursuit. So we're going to be doing a few interesting things, transitioning to a self-sustaining community, and living organically, and all that kind of thing is something that we're actually going to be engaging in ourselves. So that's a journey we would like to take you on with us, because that is for me where everybody needs to be heading, is self-sustainability. We've seen the power that being connected to the mainstream government and having their control over you. We've seen what it can do to people. And I say that those who have the means must absolutely start planting, because there's famines and stuff that are just around the corner. Those that are able must get onto land and start making themselves self-sustainable. And that is the only real tangible short-term solution that I can suggest to anybody right now. And we ourselves are going to be making that transition and, sharing the challenges with everybody as we go along. And we hope, obviously, that we can provide a little bit of inspiration to people who are going through the same thing and faced with the same challenges. Because we're nobody special, but we certainly believe that we have the capacity and the skill to share the information, to communicate it in a way that can perhaps inspire and uplift people. So that's what we're going to be doing. And along with that, all the other broadcasters who will be on the network will be joining us with their various broadcasts. I will be bringing back Dragonology as well. I've had a lot of requests for that. And we just are grateful to all those people who still support the network and share this journey with us. As always, it's great to spend time communicating this information, because I always feel that I am truly fulfilling my purpose. This is my purpose path. This is what I'm here for. And the time that I've kind of been keeping quiet and just sitting back and pulling back and observing, not being the communicator, not being actively engaged, just sitting back and feeling what's going on. For me, that has been crucial over the last few months, not just to get a good understanding of where we are, because we all knew this was coming, but also to find out who I am in all this. I've had a lot of personal challenges with friends, challenges in the local communities, challenges with people we do business with. And there seems to have been a crescendo of negativity, which sort of coincided with the onset of COVID-19, the pandemic. And we've obviously had to try to strive to rise above that and find solutions that will get us through what is going to be coming at us in the short term. But I don't want to go into that too much. Obviously, I just wanted to pop online, get onto a live broadcast and just say hello to all of you from the comfort of our home. And say we're absolutely back, folks. Conscious Consumer Network is back live, at least for now. We were taking it slow, 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and some of the content we'll be bringing you will be absolutely riveting. We've got some great stuff going on. So I'm going to leave it there. Don't like to ramble too long, but it really has been a pleasure to speak with you all again. Thank you for tuning in, and we'll be back. See you soon. Bye-bye.
If we were to change the world, we would have to change the media. The sordid state of affairs on our planet is largely due to a misguided, misinformed, and deliberately miseducated mass populace public opinion and mindset is largely controlled by the mainstream media. To a large extent, this has been the purpose of the mainstream media from a historical context. Much the same can be said for our imposed educational systems, as both have been developed with the specific intention of manipulating the public into believing and supporting a system of enslavement. It is important to recognize that education and media are inextricably linked. In order to truly affect a massive number of people into moving into a creative and constructive pattern of behavior, we need to change the purpose and effect of media as we know it. Our minds have been enslaved by the mind-numbing repetitive mass media programming that has been put out for consumption by a largely controlled mainstream media global network. Only 4 corporations own all major news networks and the best-selling papers and magazines, and these 4 companies just happen to be owned by a few at the very top, who are all in turn controlled by the CIA on behalf of the Vatican. Much like the educational institutions, we put unquestionable faith in the media and the versions of reality it portrays. Due to the fact that people put unquestionable faith in the media, it has massive influence over people and can affect them in many ways. The effects of media largely influence the way in which we view and interact with the world. There are several recognizable tactics used to do this, such as priming. In some cases, media messages may cause us to recall old ideas, knowledge, or experience. For example, a news story about the French presidential elections may trigger thoughts about the French economy, or remind one of a past trip to Paris, or to pick up some French brie when doing your grocery shopping. Agenda setting, also known as gatekeeping, refers to the fact that the media controls the information we get and therefore what we think. Editors have a lot of power here because they are ultimately the ones who decide what we are thinking about. Then there is framing, which refers to the particular treatment, angle, or spin applied to a message, which often ends up shaping our opinions about current affairs and who the good guys are in any situation. Agenda setting is deciding which story to tell, and framing is deciding how to tell them. Most media messages like adverts and public information campaigns, including news bulletins, are designed to change our attitudes and behavior. Factors that increase the likelihood of success include likability, credibility, or attractiveness of a source, the arguments used, and the people who seem to agree with them. Media also plays a role in persuading people to adopt new ideas or practices. Often, they first communicate the message about the new idea, which then spreads over interpersonal networks, expanding over time to include social leaders, peers, and the community. This eventually leads to the adoption of the idea innovation, reaching a critical mass. In today's world, it is impossible to escape media influence, so what we need to do is to change it, and in so doing, we will change the world.